You are working hard in the second day of Devcon'17 in Amsterdam, and I am here doing nothing in New York. Actually, I am planning to go and see Blade Runner 2049 in a few hours. So no spoilers, please, if any of you have seen it or read some unscrupulous review. What is a network society, and why are we on the verge of building not one, but 1,000 or 10,000 of them? A few hundred years ago, if you were born, the probability that you were the son of working the field their entire life would be very close to 100%. And that is what you would end up doing all your life, with very little or no change on the horizon in your father's condition, in your condition, and your son's condition. That is why we had, since those conditions were not great at all, the rewards that came in the afterlife. We had the fable of the seventh son that actually leaves the village, fights the dragon, marries the princess. Reality was that out of 7 children, little more than 5 on average would die. Sorry, little less than 5 on average would die. So the 7th son is a priori a myth. But if you were one of those that survived and you tried to leave the village, the feudal lord would send somebody to capture you and bring you back, because you didn't have the freedom as a vassal to go anywhere you wanted. And if you were able to escape, probably it would be the bandits to kill you just a few miles away. So when you hear people saying that there is nothing new under the sun, or that things are not going well, or other bullshit like that, just remember the probability that your life and your or mind children's lives getting better today are almost guaranteed. Obviously guaranteed only by our actions, if we want to invest in improving the conditions of society. The fact that this is recognized is illustrated, for example, by universal education. Education serves a purpose only if it can be put in practice. And the fact that we want everybody to learn is because we believe they will be able to put in practice what they learn and that of their community. So things really change, and the speed with which things change. If it was an aspiration for your children's life to get better in the last century, towards the end of last century, especially among crazy Americans, self-improvement became a thing. Books about how to get fitter, how to be more effective, how to be richer, or whatever else, are because people started to realize that it did not only the next generation better off, but you could be better off based on what you did. So change is changing. And the structure of society, of course, changes very slowly, but the fundamental why change is accelerating is technology. It is technological change that is accelerating. And there is a term for that. There is a mathematical formula. There are parameters that can measure this exponential exponential technologies. The most famous of these is Moore's law, dictating how computers get better and better, smartphones get better and better. We can integrate ever more transistors on a given area. But other systems are under the same kind of transformation as well, not only computers, driven by our global networks, the better and better understanding of the laws of nature, of science and applied science, i.e. technology. For the past many years, as I've been studying exponential technologies, I was able to ask myself, what are the consequences of exponentially accelerating technological change? And I gave myself the answer that decentralization is the consequence. I created Network Society Research, a London-based think tank now in 40 countries that collects the weak signals that each person can feel in their own society, in their own community of what is going on. And as the nation states in which he or she belongs are promoting or hindering the adoption of these technologies, depending on where they are in the spectrum of wanting to be in the avant-garde of change or the rear guard of change. Whether it is solar in energy, which is naturally decentralized, up a solar panel, I will ask him a few months later, how is it? And if he's enthusiastic, I will put it on too on my roof. Or 3D printing in manufacturing, which decouples the value being created from the capital needed to produce it and shifts that value to human ingenuity that went into designing the object. Or hydroponics, synthetic meat in food production, where we can imagine in a place like New York, where already washing machines and dryers are in the basements, another story or two dedicated with no energy spent for transportation, lit by LED lights, lit by sunlight and renewable energy, no use of pesticides in the controlled environment, variety that we can only dream of. Personalized health, blockchain, of course, in finance, but as a horizontal technology through the tokenization of completely novel activities that couldn't be measured previously, and as a consequence, couldn't support an economically expressible value. Trust networks, where when people say that Uber is competing with transportation and Airbnb with the hospitality industry, no, both are competing with police, desperate to justify their existence when to common accepted norms of behavior naturally enforced directly on the app, and violators are handed with 100% success rate, is easy expulsion from the network community, whether it is Uber or Airbnb of platform. We are also seeing, and necessarily, policymaking and the regulators under pressure systems of decentralization. And as these various pillars fundamentally support economic organization, ways of life where people can thrive, can affirm their aspirations, really designing a new kind of society where not only your condition can be better through decades or through generations, but where you can learn more efficient manner other people who are driven by your same passions doing anywhere in the world. And you can implement, you can experiment kinds of behaviors, activities be of value to your community, and in order to feel that you have a purpose as an individual, as a human being. Obviously, not in the arbitrary, paradoxical, and actually quite dangerous and damaging confines of the traditional, of anachronistic nations. This kind of association is going to happen in a non-geographical manner, where people like yourselves will participate, sometimes meet in person, but in general support anywhere they are in the planet. Another consequence of the acceleration of technological change, the complexity of the analysis of the impact of the various factors becomes, and the consequences of one or another of these sectors getting ahead through policy or through the sheer will of the people, that brings unforeseen and oftentimes unforeseeable consequences. The Soviet-style 5-year plan, it is impossible, and thing must not be totally discarded, but must be complemented with ever capacity to measure the consequences of actions and correcting the course of those actions as they happen. Of experimentation and rapid correction, iteration, agile methodology proper of be adopted beyond limits of entrepreneurship by society at large. And we must realize the demagogic candidates that so many nations elect, consequence that it is more important to be able to ask honest questions than not give ignorant and dogmatic, represented even truth while they are evident falsehoods. Kind of leadership from a point of view that this requires is not, and we don't have the support systems that can the rules of democracy that would allow somebody to make mistakes with as fancy as they were a company while they are leading a nation. Very convenient, even 100 years ago, when conflict in the tensions among various kinds of systems increased beyond the given level, that resolved everything. It was war. And when lost, you were dead. And if you won, you were right, and you acquired the opportunity of writing history books. A suspiciously coherent of what every conflict meant and why you were predestined to win. Of nuclear weapons, very simply unavailable. Almost every nation understands that on the planet. Non-violent conflict resolution, the way to go ahead where we can fork and we can leave others in their own ways. Or so, because we are substituting the constrained view defined by the geographical area that they occupy with fractal dimensions of overlapping networks. Past the forking of a nation meant an entire section of the population had to be physically eliminated. The forking of a network society simply means to participate in network A and choosing to participate in network B. The responsibility that BitNation has proportional to the opportunity of designing how these new communities are going to thrive. You are physical, extremely meaningful, not only of minds, but of doers. Today's capacity to act is very easily measured. It is measured programming lines and running code. In the millions or billions of people who enable the apps that you are designing and coding and releasing and iterating, enabled to dream in entirely novel ways. You are creating a world that others don't even imagine can exist. So that is why I know that the enthusiasm and the dedication that you are putting in these hours and days is going to be followed and effort to deliver upon the promise of BitNation. Thank you.